Hello everyone, so welcome to another video. So this one is going to be interesting, a hypothetical one. So when Build Divers was first airing, a lot of people asked me specifically like what would I pilot if I was in GBN, or what clan would I produce? And I think I've more or less answered that when I was playing Breaker 3 in GBO2, a group of just random individuals that had a laugh, and the suit that I made has had many names, but at the moment it's settled on the Crossbone Rogue, which is a mix between the Crossbone Gundam and the X Gundam, with a few modifications here and there. The idea of the suit is to be able to fight against multiple enemies, and in the process of doing this video, I've found out that it has many downfalls. So this video is going to be, how would you handle ALUS invading GBN? Or rather, how do you think you would stack up against ALUS invading GBN with his initial forces that we see in the show in episode 26? So, in episode 26, we see ALUS invade, and he has 5 capital ships. One of them is his flagship. He has a couple of Psycho Daughtresses, and then the rest of his units consist of Daughtresses and One Eyes units, which are basically Dark Army from G Gundam. So, I had to go back and look at all the things that made up my suit, and then focus on what the negatives would be. And in the process of doing this, I found out that, yeah, I'd get overwhelmed. So, the idea is, you're in the middle of the final battle in GBN, and you have to imagine what you'd be up against. A lot of mobile suits. We've seen all these like giant super moves going off left and right, and it'd be a case of how do you approach this, and what are your failings? How do you reckon you'd handle just compared to everybody else? And when thinking about this, I wanted to do it as sort of this whole thing of being fair rather than like most fans would, where they would come at this from the approach of, oh yeah, I'm the main hero now because it's my sort of take on the story, so I'd easily be able to take everybody on. Especially because of me using a Breaker 3 build here. I didn't want it to be too overpowered, so I wanted it to be really fair and kind of realistic. So, my suit has a bunch of Vulcans all over it. It has the chest Vulcans from the X Gundam, it has crossbone Vulcans, head Vulcans, and then it has the X Gundam's backpack Vulcan. They all run out of ammo real fast. In context, in Breaker 3, normally I'm using my Vulcans to keep people at range or chip away. So I feel like a bunch of units, mainly the Dark Army style ones, would just be blown away by the Vulcans. Or maybe a couple of them would take some damage, because like not all the Vulcans are the same strength. The X Gundam's chest Vulcans by far are the ones that do the most damage. The head Vulcans, not so much. So I imagine I'd rack up a couple of kills with the Vulcans. The shield bits that I have from the Keridim Gundam, they can turn into weapons as well. But the problems with those are that they'd get shot down. Normally I use them for defense, or I use them a little bit for attacking. I imagine I'd just send them out to attack a bunch of units, and they'd just get shot down. While looking into the rest of the setup that I have, I was looking at the twin buster rifle from the TV version of Wing Zero and trying to figure out what the downsides for those would be, primarily because we know the standard version of the buster rifle uses ammo cartridges and can fire 3 rounds before it's out, and I didn't know that the twin buster doesn't use cartridges. It actually uses the generator from the suit. So I imagine I'd either run out of generator energy and not be able to supply my machine, or I'd have to stop using the rifle because of the lack of energy. So either way, I'm not going to be able to use the twin buster for long, and normally in battle I'm firing that maybe a couple of times until it's out anyway. So we can count out the shield bits, the Vulcans, and the twin buster for taking out loads of units. Maybe at this point I've probably taken out like 10 grunt suits. The backpack, the satellite cannon that I have, that requires the moon to be out. Now, the way that it works in Gundam Breaker 3, when you fire it, you can only fire it once, and then you have to wait for it to charge again, but it's a long time to charge. You have to kill a load of units. In this, I'd like to think that it'd just be a case of having the moon be out so that the base can send a signal like in Gundam X. But for the sake of it, we'll say at this point in time, the moon's just not out, so the satellite cannon isn't valid. If it was, the satellite cannon would absolutely tear through tons of stuff like it's meant to. It's just not available. The hyper mode that I have on the suit from the God Gundam that was a carryover from one of the original versions, the hyper mode has a time limit. Sure, it gives me, I think it's about 30% extra power, but it's only available for a certain period of time, so maybe I can challenge one of the other more stronger suits, maybe something on the same level, like G Gundam or whatever. Probably take out one of the Psycho Daughtresses, but after that, can't use hyper mode again. It's timed out. So that leaves me with a couple of options. Because I'm using a lot of parts from the X Gundam and the Crossbone Gundam, what that means is I have a lot of different hidden weapons. Scissor Anchors being one of them, brought over from the Crossbone's legs. Problem is, Scissor Anchors can be broken, so even though I can grab onto things or I can move around real fast, we've seen them in things like Gundam Build Fighters Try, where they can be broken, so I imagine they'd get broken while I was busy trying to grab people. The shield that I have, specifically that's mounted on the suit, is the Unicorn's shield, but what I've noticed in Breaker 3 is that the eye field on it is pretty low power compared to just other shields. So, in context of this, it's just a low-powered eye field that can't stop large beam weapons. So if I get shot with a large beam cannon, it's going to do a lot of damage to my suit. And then the final secret weapon is the heat knife in the foot from the Crossbone Gundam again. The heat knife can be snapped off. So what does that leave me with? An incredibly melee-focused suit that's on low energy, has no ammo, and no other weapons other than the giant hammer from the Gusion, brought over from IBO. And even though the hammer is really good, this leaves me in a situation where I'm getting surrounded and I'm getting beaten up like crazy. I've done quite a bit of damage and I'm able to take out suits 1v1. But yeah, I find that in this scenario, even though I'd be happy taking out a few grunt suits, maybe one of the Psycho Daughtresses, I'd end up surrounded on low power in a melee fight, which is not the best sort of place you want to be in. And also, if there were other suits with more unique powers, like funnels or bits or something, my suit on GB3 has been shown in the past to be incredibly weak against funnels, including the Rose bits and Rose Hurricane from the G Gundam series. So anything like that I would not be good against, and I'd end up having to use the shield bits defensively. So yeah, I imagine I'd more or less wind up like most other players on GBN, just kind of in one of the corners of the Avalon base area trying to fight for my life, while everything tries to pick on me as I'm on low power. Anyway, how do you think you guys would stand up to ALUS fighting against everybody when he enters GBN on episode 26 of Build Divers Re-Rise? Comments down below and I'll see you on next video.